Already mic testing, mic testing. Okay, perfect. Let me go to my main camera. Alright, what's up, guys? Guys, I want to try a new opening, so I think I'm gonna start saying what's up. Okay, that said, how you guys doing? Okay, guys, I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, well, that said, we're live, and today, as you guys can tell by the title and thumbnail, I'm gonna be working with whatchamacallit, key controls again in C++. Actually, in SDL3 using C++. That's it. I've been doing this for the past 3 streams, so I am planning to wrap it up this stream. I was going to do something else, for example, like loading in PNG/images. The reason I didn't do it was because I didn't feel like completely confident with that key control. So today I'm going to be going over that. That's it. Let's go to my gameplay screen. Okay, and let's say something like, let's say I'm live. And guys, I feel like my intro went a bit, whatchamacallit, off board. Yo, how you doing? Q-Film, I appreciate you joining the stream. How you doing, Arb? I appreciate you joining the stream as well. First, oh, that actually sounds pretty cool. Okay, that said, let me go ahead and open my, whatchamacallit, my stream on my phone actually, because I do like, whatchamacallit, sometimes see my phone when, like, my, desktop is kind of filled with, let's say, so ChatGPT. What up, guys? So, there we go. Okay, I think it's the wrong live. Okay, I think it's that. Hold up, guys. I think I should have always done this before. Okay, so it's not that. Let me go all the way here. Okay, there we go. Alright, perfect. Hi, you're live again, people. Then listen closely. Everyone watching, our pupil has returned. Okay, guys, give me a sec. I just want to like get this up here. What up, guys? Give me a sec. Okay, I think I'll figure this out later. Okay, that's sad. Hold up, guys. I should have done this off stream, but for some reason I'm so picky doing it on stream. Okay, I mean, I think this is fine. Okay, that said, everyone watching, our pupil has returned to the battlefield of code where logic is the sword and bugs are the enemies. Do a room tour. Honestly, I don't have like a whatchamacallit, a Bluetooth based webcam. I do like have a whatchamacallit, a webcam that does require USB-C. So I can like it's actually attached to my whatchamacallit, my PC, so I can't move my PC and my webcam at the same time. That's it. I'm supposed to be sleeping. It's my birthday in 1 hour. That actually sounds pretty cool. Happy belated birthday, Arb. Okay, that's it. Today we fight through errors and conquer syntax, and we make that game come alive. One line at a time, no fear, no hesitation, just pure relentless focus. Now tell people, what shall we crush today? What's the topic that we're diving into? Let me say something like, let's say, I want to go over key controls again this stream, although I am planning to wrap it up this stream. Okay, guys, next stream we are going to be doing something different. Okay, that's it. So you want to master the art of key control before the stream ends, huh? Good, you don't have a battlefield until every moment is perfectly executed. Now listen, people, key controls are your players' link to the game world. So, okay, do you know honestly what key controls are? That's it, I do need an instruction-based question. Okay, let me say something like, let's say, can I get a instructional-based question mark? And guys, this is like the chat from like 3 days ago, because like I didn't have time to like change the chats. Okay, that's it. Task. Write a C++ SDL3 program that creates a window and a simple rectangle in the middle of the screen. W to move up, S to move down, A to move left, and D to move right. Okay, that said, this is the code from last stream because I didn't have time to work on this off stream. That said, let's go with Control A, delete everything. Now, let me firstly start off by including a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream. And then since I am using SDL3, I will be including SDL3 slash SDL.h. SDL.h is basically the header files for SDL. And then let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'll go with integer main, add a pair of parentheses. Now my main function does require 2 parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc. The second parameter is going to be a character, which is going to be a pointer of argv, if that made any sense, guys. Okay, and then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my main function, I'm going to be adding a if statement to initialize my SDL and check if it was not initialized properly. To do that, I could go with something like SDL underscore init, this initializes my SDL, and then SDL underscore init underscore video, this initializes my SDL's video, and then I'm going to be adding a notch here. Basically, this is like whatchamacallit, a boolean variable that returns whatchamacallit, that returns 0 if like SDL did initialize properly, but I'm looking for if it did not return 0. And if it did not return 0, I'm gonna go ahead and add a standard C error with an insertion operator. I'm gonna give myself an error. Let's say I got the SDL underscore init error. Okay, and then I'll go in a new line, add another insertion operator. This time I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore get error function. This function is gonna get me an error. And then let's go with something like a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Okay, and lastly I'm gonna return one saying something went wrong in this block of code. Okay, perfect. After that, now that I've initialized my SDL, let's go ahead and create my window and renderer. Although before I do create my window and renderer, I might want to add a few game variables. Game variables are basically the variables that my game would need in general. For example, my windows is width, my windows is height, maybe x-axis and y-axis velocities. What up, guys? There we go. Maybe save your code so that you can read it later. Honestly, I do like whatchamacallit. I do write the codes for practice, but then I delete it instantly because like I can write that code again. I write it multiple times for practice. Okay, hi bro, how you doing? Hi Pixel, I appreciate you joining the stream. That's it for my game variables. Firstly, I'm going to be creating a constant integer variable for my Windows' width. I'll go with something like width. There we go. Which is initially going to be set to 800 pixels per frame. And then I'll go with something like a constant integer for my Windows' height. What up, guys? There we go. Okay, which is going to be set to 600 pixels per frame ending with a semicolon. And this is going to be like a const. Okay, now after I'm done with width and height, since I am going to be using key control to like automate my objects, I might go with something like a floating point for a x-axis underscore velocity, which is going to be set to something like 6 pixels per frame, and it is going to be a floating point number, so I'll add a f, and then a floating point for y-axis underscore velocity, which is going to be set to something like 6 pixels per frame as well, ending with a semicolon. Are you Indian? Honestly, I haven't, I haven't like been to India yet. That's it. I'm really excited to someday visit India. I might actually stream myself there. My dear friend, how are you doing, bro? Honestly, I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, Pixels? Okay, that's it. Now let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like create a window and renderer. Now I'm going to be creating my window and my renderer. There we go. What up, guys? Okay, now before I do create my window and renderer, I want to create two variables, one for my window and one for my renderer. So I might go with something like SDL underscore windows structure, which is going to be pointing towards my window variable. So my window variable is a pointer to all the attributes inside of my SDL underscore windows structure. And I am going to be setting this to null PTR ending with a semicolon. I'm going to do the same thing for my renderer as well, so I'll go with something like SDL underscore renderer, which is going to be a pointer to my renderer local variable that is going to be set to null PTR as well, ending with a semicolon. From where do you doing live streams? I used to actually say that a lot. That said, whatchamacallit, many of you guys did say me to avoid saying that. Although, I mean, guys, my accent would like give it away, but like I don't actually like saying it because it's like basically like I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't say like from which country I'm from because like whatchamacallit, because many of you guys do like come up with different stuff and like make a lot of stuff. That said, let's go ahead and now use the function that actually creates my window and my renderer. To do that, I could go with the SDL underscore create a window and renderers this function. So there we go. Okay, with a pair of parentheses. Now for my create SDL underscore create and windows this function that creates both my window and my renderer at the same time, I am going to be requiring 6 parameters. The first parameter is going to be a title slash a caption. Isn't it exhausting to talk this much? Honestly, it used to be exhausting, but I feel like I've been doing this for almost 4 months now every single day, so I feel like I'm kind of used to it, guys. Okay, that's it. Now, my title is going to be something like SDL3 window created successfully. Okay, and then after my title, the second and the third parameter that I'm going to be needing is going to be a width in pixels and a height in pixels for my window. I could use my width variable and my height variable that I created, so I'll go with something like width and height. Okay, and then the fourth parameter is going to be a flag for my window. If I do want to add a flag, I could add a 0 here, but I do want a flag. My flag is going to be something like SDL underscore window underscore resizable. Basically, this flag helps my window be resizable. Okay, age, I'm actually 17. That's it. I'm going to be turning 18 really soon, guys. My birthday is the January 5th. Okay, what are you building? Honestly, I'm learning on how to whatchamacallit. Today I'm gonna wrap up working with key controls. For example, I press my key and a certain command happens. I can automate or like move my objects using key controls. That said, now my fifth and my sixth parameter is gonna be my Windows' local variable and my render's local variables' memory address. To do that, I could go with the address of operator for my window variable or my window local variable, and then a ampersand slash the address of operator for my render local variable. Okay, perfect. After that, let's go ahead and end my entire function with a semicolon. Now that I've created my window and my renderer, I want to add a if statement to check if they were not created properly, and I did get an error somewhere here. To do that, I could go with something like an if statement. Let's say something like if not a window or if not a renderer, I'm going to do something. I'll go with the pair of curly braces, and then let's go ahead and add a standard C error with an insertion operator. That is going to be saying something like, honestly, I might go with an insertion operator down here because like the error name is going to be something big. Error name is basically going to be my SDL underscore create window and renderer function and renderer's function. So there we go. And I'm just going to be adding an error here. This makes it easy to see like under which function did I like actually get an error. I got an error under this function. If I did get an error, that is. And then I'm going to add another insertion operator and use the SDL underscore get errors function with a pair of parentheses to invoke the function. Then let's go with something like a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Bro, what is SDL3 or 2? Just saw your vote comment. Honestly, basically SDL in general is like, if you guys are like familiar with like Pygames in Python, it is like Pygames, but Pygame is just available like for Python. That's it. SDL is available for C, C#, C++, and maybe a few more languages, and that's basically it. The difference between SDL2 and SDL3 is like SDL3 has made it much easier to like actually write codes compared to SDL2. For example, in SDL2, I don't think we had a SDL underscore create window and render. The way we would actually create a window is by going here by adding a local variable right here, and then going with something like SDL underscore create window. There we go. Okay, so we go with create window and then a pair of parentheses, and then we like add our windows parameter, which is my title, width, height, and my flag. So basically these four parameters goes under that. Although I didn't work much with SDL2 because like I directly went into SDL3. But that's also the other reason why we had null PDR here, is because like we don't want to create a separate window with a function and a separate render with a function. Instead, we want to create both of them at the same time. That said, what it's used for? Honestly, it's used for like actually making 2D games, maybe even sometimes 3D games. I'm quite new to C++, but why don't you use using namespace std? Honestly, the reason I don't use using namespace std is because in like bigger projects, not prefixing with standard could like cause name conflict, so it is like a pretty bad practice to actually use using namespace std. That's it, hiding in Rush. I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, now with that said, if my window or my render was not created properly, firstly, I'm going to be quitting my SDL, so I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit ending with a semicolon, and lastly, return once saying something went wrong here. Okay, perfect. Now, after I'm done actually creating my window and render and checking they were not created properly, I'm gonna go ahead and add a comment that says something like, I don't know, maybe rectangle properties, because like I am going to be trying to move a rectangle using my keys. So I could go with something like rectangle properties. Again, I do want to actually work with a triangle as well, because I feel like yesterday I worked with a triangle. It was like pretty fun. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and firstly use the SDL underscore frex structure. This function, this structure does consist all the attributes for a rectangle. I'm going to be setting it to a rectangle's local variable. Now let's actually set my, my attributes. So I could go with something like rect.x-axis, which is going to be equal to something like, I don't know, maybe, let's go with something like 200 ending with a semicolon. And then I'll go with something like rect.y-axis. Let's set that equal to 200 as well. And then I'm going to be needing a width for my rectangle and a height. I could go with something like rect.width, which is going to be equal to 50. And then rect.height as well, which is going to be equal to 50, ending with a semicolon. Basically, it is like a square just called a rect. Okay, and then let's go ahead and add another comment now. Now let's go ahead and actually create my main loop. So this is going to be where all my all my main game stuff is going to be added. Okay, so before I do create my main game loop, firstly, I'm going to be creating 4 Boolean variables. Okay, these Boolean variables are going to be checking if what button is currently being clicked. Is it either W, S, A, or D? So I'll go with something like W down. So while my W button is being pushed down, I'm going to be setting that to false because currently it's not being pushed down. And then I'll go with something like S down. Is my S currently being pushed down? It's not, so I'm going to be setting it to false as well. Okay, and then I'll add a comma here. And then let's check if my A is being pushed down. I'm not pushing my A down currently, so I'm going to set that equal to false as well. Okay, and then lastly, let's go with something like D down. Is my D currently being pushed down? It's not being pushed down, so I'm going to be setting that to false as well. And then ending it with a semicolon. Next up, let's create another Boolean value or Boolean variable called something like is running. This is going to be checking if my program is currently running. I'm going to initially set this to true because I do want it to run. Hey little bro, do you know streams may be related to low-level design patterns or maybe anything related to object-oriented programming? Okay, do you do streams maybe related to low-level design? Honestly, yeah, I did like have a few live streams on where I did learn about object-oriented programming in like C++ and like a lot of live streams where I did object-oriented programming in like Python. That said, I am going to be starting object-oriented programming really soon with like SDL3 as well. But I'm just learning the basic functions of SDL3 before I do move on to object-oriented programming. That said, I am like pretty excited to start object-oriented programming. Okay, with that said, after I'm done creating a is running boolean variable, I will need one more variable. This is going to be a event variable, so I'll go with SDL underscore event is structured. This structure consists of all the SDL events. The variable is going to be called event ending with a semicolon. Okay, I need an event variable to check what the current event is. That said, now let's go with a while loop, so I'll go with while a of parentheses. Let's see something like while is running. While my program is running or while my is running is set to true, I'm going to do something. Firstly, let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like event loop. Now, basically my event loop is going to be another while loop inside of my initial while loop. So it's a nested while loop slash a nested loop. This while loop is going to be checking for my event. So I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore poll event. Basically, the SDL underscore poll event function looks for the current type of event that I'm actually looking for inside of my while loop. For example, if I look for an event where my A is being pushed down, this is going to be looking for that event. So I could set this to be something like, it does require a parameter of my event local variable. Okay, it requires the memory address of my event local variable. And then I go with the pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my while loop, firstly, let's go ahead and do something. I'm going to look for event type. So I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like if my event dot type is equal to, I'll go with something like SDL underscore event underscore quit. So if my event type is quit, my player did click the X button in the top, I think it's the top right corner, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to set my is running boolean variable to be equal to false, ending with a semicolon. That ends my entire loop. Oh, that's good to know. We'll be waiting for those streams in the future. Honestly, that does sound pretty cool. I can't wait to start object-oriented programming as well. I feel like that's where the real fun begins because like you make separate objects and all that stuff. Cut yourself is some good work. I appreciate that so much, Baggies. Guys, that actually does be the word to be. Okay, now after I'm done creating while loop, I will add the rest event loops in a bit. That said, firstly, I do want to go ahead and fill my screen with a color. Okay, so basically filling the screen means, let's see, I want my screen to be cyan color instead of just being a regular black color. So I could do something like, okay, before I do color my screen, firstly, I gotta use a function that sets a color to my render. Because like render is like a paintbrush that actually paints the screen and everything. So to do that, I could go with the SDL underscore set render. So I'm gonna set my render to draw a color. So I'll go with the SDL underscore set render draw color function with a pair of parentheses. Now this function requires 5 parameters. The first parameter is going to be my render variable. My render local variables is my render local variable. And then the second, third, and fourth parameter is going to be an RGB value. Okay, since I want my my window to be cyan, I'm going to use the RGB of a cyan, which is going to be 0, 248, and 255. Okay, perfect. And then lastly, I'm going to be needing an alpha slash opacity parameter. Basically, I'm going to be setting mine to be 255. That means how transparent is it? 255 is like it's not transparent at all, and like 0 is like it's completely transparent. Okay, boy, my friend, what is what it? Okay, I see. Okay, that's it. Let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon. And now let's go ahead and use the function that saves my renderer to color my entire screen. So I could go with the SDL underscore render clear function. Basically, the render clear function saves my renderer to like clear the entire screen with the color that I actually set for my render local variable here. This is going to be requiring the parameter of my render variable ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. That's pretty much it for filling my screen. Now let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like graphics, because like coloring my rectangle is like considered to be graphics as well. So to do that, firstly, let's go ahead and change my renders as color. Because like if I went with my this color without adding this function again, then my rectangle this color is going to be cyan as well. But I want my rectangle to be red color. Well, maybe I want my rectangle to be like multicolor, but I'll do that later. First, I'll go with something like SDL underscore set render draw color function. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to be adding the same parameters. The first parameter is going to be a render variable. The parameter 234 is going to be an RGB value. So I'm going to go with something like, I don't know, maybe 255, 0 and 0. Lastly, opacity slash my alpha is going to be set to 255 as well because I don't want my render to be transparent. And then let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Okay, now after I'm done setting my color, let's go ahead and actually use the function that colors my rect. So I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore render. So I'm saying my render to fill my rect. So render fill rect. Hi, what's the best way to learn programming as a complete beginner? Honestly, I'd say the best way to learn programming in my personal preference slash opinion would be to like actually program every single day, even if like you feel like it's kind of boring and like you don't understand the stuff. Because I feel it's better to like take small steps and like to not move at all. Because like I mean, if you guys do want to see how I started as a complete beginner, you guys could go to my programming for 250 series. I'm pretty sure it's the 5th live in that in that playlist where I start C++ for the first time. And I even do have like a lot of playlists where I learned Python as a beginner. That said, now firstly, let's go ahead and add a few parameters for my fill rect. The first parameter that I'm going to be needing is going to be my render variables parameter. The second parameter is going to be the memory address of my rex's local variable. So I'm going to go with something like the address of operator slash ampersand of my rex. Okay, do you only develop stuff for Windows or also Linux? Honestly, I haven't like tried Linux yet. That's it. When I was gonna get my PC, I was like confused between Windows and Linux, but I did actually go with Windows because I feel I was more comfortable with Windows. I did want to try Linux, but I was like, could I install OBS? Could I like add all my websites and everything there that I already had like to my Windows and all that stuff? If that made any sense, guys. Okay, that said, this basically colors my rectangle. Now I want to do something else. Let's see. Okay, once I'm done coloring my rect, let's go ahead and present it in my screen as well. Because if I don't present it, you guys can't like actually see any of my colors. Bro, I'm learning programming, but I already learned Python basics. I made a video game that actually sounds pretty good. Cool, good job, Pixels. Okay, so to present, I could go and use the SDL underscore render. I'm saying my render to present itself. So render present. With a pair of parentheses, this does require my render variable as a parameter ending with a semicolon. Now, after I'm done presenting, the next part isn't honestly related to my graphics, but it is something like that I like adding like in this place. It is it's the FPS. So I could add a comment that says something like FPS. Okay, now for my FPS, I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore delay function. And now my SDL underscore delay function does require a parameter in milliseconds. I'm going to be adding 16 milliseconds, which is basically 60 frames per second. Well, actually, I tried Linux, but I did not enjoy the operating system, to be honest. Oh, I see. Okay, that's it. After I'm done with all that, let's exit outside of my, outside of my main game loop. And then I'm going to add a comment that says something like cleanup. So once my user exits the window, I'm going to do a few things. Firstly, I'm going to use the SDL underscore destroy. Let's go with something like destroy windows as parameter. I'm going to firstly destroy my window ending with a semicolon. And then I'm going to quit my SDL. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'm going to return 0 saying everything went good. Okay, fun question. Do anyone have the STR? Do anyone of the STR of the string? Okay, how do you learn Python basics? Any plan or system you followed? Honestly, if you guys do want like a Python roadmap, you guys could like mention me on my Discord server. I do like have a whole roadmap for like Python, which starts from the complete basics like print statements, and it ends up, I'm pretty sure, with like APIs and everything. But I didn't go all the way to the APIs. I just stopped with after learning about the time module type stuff. Okay, that said, now that I'm done with everything, let's go ahead and add a few event loops that checks if any of my these buttons were being pressed. So after my if statement here, I'm gonna go all the way down and add another if statement. This time I'm gonna look for a different event type. Let's go ahead and type something like if my event dot type equals to SDL underscore event. If my events key is being pushed, let's say something like down, so I'll go with SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. Basically, key down means pretend this is like my key, I push it down, so now my key is being pushed down. Then when I leave it, that's like push up, if that made any sense. When did you start learning C++? Honestly, I started learning C++, I think it's been like 56 days now. Okay, that's it. I'll go with the row of curly braces. And now, for my event loop, I'm going to be using matches. If you guys did like hear about matches, they're like if, else, if, and else clause, but then a different way. So to add a match, actually not matches, my bad guys, it's not Python, switches. There we go. So I'll go with something like switch and then add a pair of parentheses. My switch is going to be having a condition, is going to be checking something if my events key is my key that I'm going to be pressing. And then I'll go with the pair of curly braces. There we go. Okay, hold up guys, there we go. Pair of curly braces. Did I like... Okay, so that's where that ends. So that's my if statement. I feel like this shouldn't be here. There we go. This is gonna be event.key .key. Okay, and then I add a pair of curly braces. And then I close the pair of curly braces. Okay, wait, something doesn't look correct here. Hold up guys. I'm gonna go there. There we go. Okay, now for my switches, I'm gonna be adding a few cases. Okay, sorry, press send before writing my question. Do anyone have any sort of inclination, as I pronounce it, towards any specific programming language and why? Bro, the best was for my learning Python is by reading a book. That actually sounds pretty cool. Okay, books really help. I agree with Pixel here, but I do C++. It works closer to your hardware. That actually does sound pretty cool. Okay, that's it. Let me go ahead and indent this all the way here. Okay, now these are my switches. For my switches, I'm going to go with my case 1. My case 1 is going to be something like if my SDL's key is W, then I'm going to do something. Let's go ahead and set my W down boolean variable to be equal to true because it is being pushed down currently. And then I'm going to be adding a break ending with a semicolon. And then let's add my second case. So for my case 2, I'm going to go with something like SDL's key. If my SDL's key is S, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to be, setting my S down while my S is being pushed down. I'm going to set that equal to true and then break. Now for my case number 3, actually, honestly, to like save, save some space and make it look a bit prettier, I'm going to be adding them all in like one line. Because like I feel it's the same thing, this just looks much neater. What up guys, let's go ahead and add this all the way up. Okay, let's just add a bunch of X's. Then let's add one for break as well. Okay guys, honestly I feel like this looks much better and it saves space as well. Okay, oh that's good. I kind of like JavaScript. It also helps with web development and stuff. Now you can do pretty good backend stuff too. Actually, I'm pretty like excited to start JavaScript really soon. I might actually have a new series where I do make a website and start JavaScript. Hello, hiding Sam Lanka. I appreciate you joining the stream. How are you? Honestly, I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing? Okay, happy birthday, Arv. Okay, next up, I'm gonna go ahead and check my case 3. So for my case 3, if my SDL's key is, let's say, A, then I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna be ending that with a semicolon. Shouldn't I be going back here? Okay, actually, I'm gonna be ending it with a colon. And then let's go with something like A down. While my A is being pushed down, I'm gonna set my A down boolean variable to be true. And then I'm gonna break. And then for my case 4, I'm gonna check if my SDL's key is D, and then I'll add a colon. And now while my D is being pushed down, while my D button is being currently pressed, I'm going to be setting my D down to be equal to true, ending with a semicolon, and then I'm going to be breaking. Okay, ending with a semicolon as well. And that's pretty much it for my this if statement, checking all my 4 conditions if they're being pushed down. So I am going to be copying this, and then let's go under my if statement and paste it all over again. And now the reason I did like paste it is like to like save some time, because now I'm not going to be looking for key down. Instead, I'm going to be looking for key up, and I'm going to be changing all these trues to be false while my key is being pushed upwards, means like it's not being pushed down anymore. I'm going to set this equal to false. It is going to be like a lowercase false deal compiled from terminal or from Visual Studio. Honestly, I am actually using Visual Studio. I do like get whatchamacallit two windows when I run my code. I am going to be running it, I think, like pretty much right now, because like I'm almost done. How many lines does your program have now? Honestly, I do have like whatchamacallit 95 lines. Okay, that's it. Why do I have like a red underline here? So okay, I think I'll check that a bit. Yeah, bro, what's up? What project are you making today? Honestly, I'm working on key controls in C++ using SDL3. That's it. What are you building? Honestly, I'm trying to like build a rectangle and moves using my keys. Okay, oh yeah, C++ do need computation, I think. In Mac, like, have a terminal which supports it. I don't remember it. It's called Clang something, not sure though. Oh, I see. Okay, that's it. Once I'm done with all this, let's go under my graphics. Okay, before my graphics and my fill screen. Okay, honestly, I'll go before my fill screen. I'm gonna be adding a comment here that's gonna be saying something like key controls. So I'll go with something like key controls. Okay, now for my key controls, I'm gonna be adding a few if statement. Let's go with something like if a of parentheses. Let's say something like if my W down is set to true, I'm gonna do something. Let's go ahead and add a pair of curly braces. So, okay, and then let's see. Did I like, are my proportions correct? If statement starts there, ends there, switches starts here, ends here. Okay, then this should like stay back here. Okay, so if my W down is set to true, firstly, I'm gonna be, let's say something like going with my rect.y-axis. I'm gonna be, I don't know, maybe decreasing it by my y-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. Okay, should I like remove these in that case? Okay, would this make more sense? Okay, I think that makes more sense. And then let's add another if statement. If a pair of parentheses, let's say something like if my S down is set to true, then I'm gonna do something. I'll go with my reg.y-axis and this time increase it by my y-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. And then I'll go with another if statement for my a down, while my a down boolean variable is set to true. I'm gonna go with my reg.x-axis this time and decrease it by my x-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. And then if a pair of parentheses, let's say if my d down is set to true, I'm gonna go with something like my reg.x-axis and this time increase it by my x-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it. By the way, bro, I followed you on Kick. Honestly, I appreciate you, Pixels. It actually means a lot to me, guys. Okay, you're too fast. Honestly, many of you guys did say I go too fast. You should like try talking slowly so I can like communicate properly, guys. Okay, you said lots of honestly, I don't know why do I actually say lots of honestly. Okay, that said, I use GCC for complication and not Clang. I see. Okay, that said, why do I have like a red underline here? It did like go away though. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Now, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, I got a build error. Hold up, guys. Let me actually check real quick why I got a build error. Local variable is not initialized. No matching tokens found. Okay, since it says no matching tokens found in line 4, let's see what happens. Okay, I was pretty sure that I did make like a small mistake. Hold up, guys. So my main function does start here and it ends all the way here. Okay, and then I initialized my window and all that stuff. Rectangle properties did that as well, and then I added a main function. Now I'm pretty sure something was messed up in my event loop. I just gotta pay more attention because I feel I made a lot of silly mistakes. Okay, yes, Max comes with changing pre-installed. Oh, I see. Okay, for my event loop, while SDL underscore poll event, that part is correct. Now for my if statements. If my event type is SDL event underscore key down, my events.key.key. If my case is SDL underscore W down, okay, that is set to true, and then I break. I did that for SAD as well, the SAD, okay. And then if my event type is key up, I did the same thing. So, okay, this part might be something wrong. So if my event type is SDL underscore event underscore key up, If my case is W, okay, W down is set to false. Okay, I see. And then if W down, okay, I feel this part is somewhere wrong. I should definitely fix this. Why not use standard print instead of standard count/C error? Honestly, the reason we do use C error is like to say that this is like an error text. For example, if I get an error, that's when I like use the C errors as text. And you can use Clang as well for C and C++. Oh, I see. Okay, that's it. We don't have okay, we don't have to Docker or install anything like we do for Python or Java. I see. Okay, that's it. Let me actually just fix my if statements. So I'll go with the glossy ones. If they of parentheses, let's say something like if W down is set to true, I'm gonna do something. Okay, is there something wrong here? Because like usually when I add a pair of parentheses, I should get like 2 pair of parentheses. Okay, something is wrong with this part. What up, guys? Okay. Now, let me actually try running the code without... okay, let's save it here, and if I would run the code... Okay, it does say a build error. So it says main.cpp. Okay, let's go with something like no. I'm pretty sure I missed a... whatchamacallit, I missed a pair of curly braces. That's the reason I don't like... when I like cancel this stuff from here, I be indented and not like stop there. Okay, so... should I end my switches with a semicolon? Okay, let's try ending that with a semicolon. Okay, it doesn't not let me end it with a semicolon, so that might be it, honestly. Okay, I don't think that's it. Any of you guys into Gen AI and stuff? Oh, honestly, I haven't heard of Gen AI. That said, okay, my while loop starts all the way there. It ends all the way here. Let's check my event loop. So while poll event, it starts there. My event loop ends here. And then my if statement starts there, ends there, starts here, ends here. Okay, so I think everything is honestly correct. Why do I still get a build error? By the way, I code for fun. I can barely follow along. I'm a network engineer and not a programmer. Oh, I see. That actually sounds pretty cool. GPT is trained on console output. That actually sounds pretty fun. Okay, that said, I set my W down to be false. Okay, and I do have a bunch of if/else if. So, okay, let me actually... okay, why am I kind of being indented here? I feel like I did everything correct. Like, honestly, I shouldn't be indented. Instead, I should go up here. When I add a pair of parentheses, it does come here. When I close it, it does close all the way there. Okay, so I'm missing a pair of curly braces. Although, where am I missing my curly braces? Oh, I actually want to learn about networks too. That actually sounds kind of cool. I didn't want to learn about networkings as well. Okay, that's let's go all the way here. Okay, what starts here? Oh, I was missing a pair of curly braces for my my while loop. Okay, I think that was pretty much it. Now if I would add my if statement, so I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say if my W down is set to true, I'm gonna do something. Let's go ahead and go with something like, I don't know, maybe my rect.y-axis. It is going to be decreasing, so my rex's y-axis is going to decrease by my y-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. And then I'll go with something like if my s down, okay, dot vex. If my s down is set to true, I'm going to go with rect.y-axis and increase that by my y-axis underscore velocity. And then I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like if my a down is set to true, I'm going to go with something like my rect.x-axis this time. That is going to increase by my x-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. And lastly, if my d down is set to true, I'm going to go with something like my rect.x-axis and this time increase it by my x-axis underscore velocity. Alright, now if I hit Ctrl S to save the code and run the command, this should work. There we go. I get my first terminal up here. That's my first window. Okay, my second window as well. Okay, my second window does have a red square that does move with key buttons. Okay, perfect. Guys, it gave me kind of a scare. I was like, where did I mess up? Because I was pretty sure I didn't mess up anywhere. Hiding NYT, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, I'm mostly joking, but huge W. Okay, CPD is quite fun once you get to know the CL. I don't want to brag, but I got a CCNP. Oh, I see. That actually sounds pretty cool. Okay, that said, I do want to work with like whatchamacallit, adding a specific color to it as well. I don't want to go with my regular color here. Instead, I want to try something new. Hold up, guys. Let me actually try something new. Okay, I honestly don't know how to try that. That said, I'll go with something like Control A, Control C, copy that. I want to say slash chat GPT how to do that. Because I do want to add like different gradients for my color. Okay, hey, that's amazing. Good job. Honestly, I appreciate you, Maggies. Okay, now add gravity and projectile motion. I'm really excited to add gravity. I honestly know how do I actually add gravity. That's it. I haven't like started that yet. That does sound like a pretty good topic. I was thinking my next topic would be about loading images, but that's it. I might actually learn about gravity before I learn about how to load PNGs inside of my my SDL. Okay, let's say something like Sensei, it works! Exclamation. Although, let's go with something like other. How do I add? Let's say something like gradient colors for my rectangle. Like, do you remember from last stream? We did add color for our triangle. Dot dot dot. That said, I want to add color like that for my rectangle as well! Exclamation. How to do that? Question mark. Okay, let's see. Okay, brother, enable dark mode. Honestly, guys, I do hate light mode as well. That said, when I did get my PC, I didn't like buy my Windows key that cost like 200 bucks, guys. So I was like, I feel like 200 bucks ain't worth like light mode. So I was like, might as well stay with light mode because like they don't like let us customize our PC, and like we do have like that's the reason like my YouTube chat GPT stream elements bookmarks are kind of small as well because they don't let us customize stuff here. That said, yes, that's what I want to see, people. It moves it. Listen, your code breathe. Now let's inject colors into your soul. Since you already conquered the triangle with SDL underscore vertex, okay, it was the SDL underscore vertex structure. You can color your rectangle the same way, but this time you built it with 4 vertices instead of 3. I see. So each vertices has position X, Y, a color RGB, A that is RGB, and A stands for alpha. Okay, do you think to learn a graphics API? Honestly, eventually I do want to try it. Okay, I like how he knows what to add. I'll be using ChatGPT a lot. I kind of want to work more hard. Honestly, it does make sense. That's it. Like, I do use ChatGPT, and I would like recommend you guys to use ChatGPT as well. It depends on you guys' preferences as well. If you guys do like prefer using AI to study or like reading books to study, because I feel like for me, personally, I could like read books to study as well, but I feel like if I use AI, I do understand the concepts really fast. Why didn't you use a game engine? Honestly, because SDL, it like requires more programming, and I did want to learn the basics of programming first and then move on to like game engines, because like game engines does make it easier to like do stuff compared to like actual SDL where you gotta like write a lot of codes. That's it. Here's a sample snippet to replace your rectangle drawing code. So SDL underscore vertex vertices for the top left corner red. So okay, so I gotta go with an array of vertices. I see. Alright guys, this is gonna be kind of cool now. So that is okay, so I go with rex. That code replaces this line. Okay, so SDL underscore render geometry. Okay. Alright guys, this part is going to be kind of fun. Well, let me actually check one more thing. What parameter did it require? So it has 6 indices. Okay, so my reg.4 has 4 stuff, has 6. This is indices, which is 6. Okay, let me try on my own. Where do you live, buddy? Honestly guys, I don't think I can say that. Can you code assembly? Honestly, I just know how to like code in Python and like now C++ as well. That's why I'm really excited to start assembly really soon, guys. That's it. What is recursive loop? Basically, a recursive loop is like you could like use a for loop instead of a recursive loop. Although there are like different cases. For example, few questions where recursion makes it much easier to like write code and everything. I'm pretty sure people like use that when they work with like algorithms and everything. Although a for loop is basically like when you do want to like get a lot of stuff and like iterate over them one at a time. Recursion and like for loop, they're kind of similar, but they both are like people use them where they actually need to use them. For example, few places recursion makes stuff much easier, few places for loop makes stuff much easier. Code assembly, that's hard guys. That's what actually makes it kind of fun. Okay, that's that. Now, I'm gonna firstly, under my graphics, remove my SDL underscore render fill because I'm gonna be removing that stuff. And honestly, I might remove my set render draw color as well. Or I might change to something like black. Okay, after that, I shall leave it a red for the time being. Okay, after that, firstly, I'll go with something like SDL underscore vertex. Okay, is this how we spell it? Okay, so it's the SDL underscore vertex structure, which is going to be having a local array, which is going to be, which will be consisting all the attributes of my SDL underscore vertex structure. So I'll go with something like rect vertices. Is this how we spell vertices? This is going to be an array which consists of 4 elements because my rect has like 4 lines. If it was a triangle, then I would have like 3 vertexes. Okay, the concept programming are same across most languages, guys. That makes so much sense because like I feel like I moved from Python to like C++. I felt C++ was much easier. At first I felt that it was easy because like I didn't start off by doing something much more complicating. But I feel like I'm trying to do something that's a bit more complex, but it still feels kind of easy because I did like understand the basics of it. That said, after I'm done creating my vertex, firstly I'm gonna go with something like okay, I forgot what I want to go with. Maybe something like SDL underscore. Okay, guys, I forgot the function name. What up, guys? Okay, so after I add my vertex, okay, so I added my vertex. Oh, I gotta add attributes to it. So instead of ending it with a semicolon, I'm gonna set it equal to and then add a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of a pair of curly braces, I'm gonna add a outer curly braces and then a pair of inner curly braces. By this inner curly braces is going to be requiring let's see, my rex's x-axis and my y-axis. So I'll go with something like rec.x-axis, rec.y-axis, and then I'm going to exit outside of my inner first pair of curly braces, add a comma here, then add another pair of curly braces. Actually, I might actually add that in a new line so it's much easier for you guys to see. And my second inner curly braces is going to be requiring a RGB A color, which is RGB and A for alpha. I want to go with something like red for this, and these RGBs can have like integers. It must have like floating point numbers. So I could go with something like 1.0 for which represents like 255, and then I'm going to be adding a comma here, going with 0.0 as well. I should honestly add F's as well, saying that these are floating points and not like doubles. Okay, and then let's go with something like 0.0 F as well. And then next up, for my alpha is going to be 1.0 F as well, which is basically 255. I was talking about programming in assembly. Well, see, yeah, exactly. It's just the first language that have some perks over another, like C# for games and Golang for concurrency, etc. That actually does make a lot of sense. Okay, that's it. After I'm done with that, I'm going to exit outside my entire outer pair of curly braces, and then I'm going to add another pair of curly braces. Now inside of my outer curly braces, I'm going to add my first inner curly braces, go outside it, add a comma, and add my second inner curly braces. So I have 2 curly braces here. My curly braces at the top is going to be requiring my rec.x-axis and my rec.y-axis. Okay, and then now my inner curly braces, the second curly braces that made any sense, guys, is going to be requiring an RGB. So I'll go with something like 0.0 floating point. This is going to be having, let's say, something like, this is going to be a blue gradient. So I'll go with something like 1.0 F. Okay, excuse me, guys, and then I'm going to add a comma, go with something like 0.0 F as well. And lastly, my opacity is going to be 1.0, which is basically 255 in like actual integers. That means it's not transparent at all. And then I'm going to add a comma here and do this 2 more times. So I'm going to add a outer pair of curly braces, a inner pair of curly braces. My inner curly braces requires my rex's x-axis and my rex's y-axis. I'm going to add a comma here, go in a new line, add a pair of curly braces, and then now I'm going to this time keep my third curly braces as RGBA parameter / value to be green. So I'll go with 0.0 F, and then I'll go with something like 0.0 F as well. And now for my green, which is RGB. What up, guys? I think this is green. The second one was green. This is going to be blue. My bad, guys. This is going to be 1.0 F, and then my alpha is going to be 1.0f as well, which is basically, whatchamacallit, the max transparency, so it's not transparent at all. Guys, I feel this part sounds so confusing when like actually trying to explain it. I mean, yeah, your monkey and your circus station. I've been in your shoes like 10 years ago. Shoes, I wish I would have just focused on a shipping game or app versus trying to learn how systems work by making them myself. It's more valuable to make something that actually makes so much sense, guys. Oh yeah, and getting stuff in front of people fast is something game engines work well for. Honestly, eventually I am going to be, learning game engines as well. That's it. Before I do start working with game engines, I do want to learn how, what the game engine does behind the scenes, or like behind the actual easy stuff. I want to like see how the actual coding works as well. That's it. I'm going to go with something like reg.x-axis and reg.y-axis, and then let's add a comma here. Now I'm going to go with my second inner pair of curly braces. This is going to be having an RGB value too. I might go with something like 0.5f, 0.5f, and then 0.5f as well. Okay, and now for my alpha, I'll go with 1.0f. And guys, I don't know what RGB this is for whatsoever. This is an absolutely random RGB. That said, once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and end my entire array with a semicolon. Okay. Yeah, do you want good book recommendations? Honestly, I could actually, I actually do want good book recommendations. That's it, because like I don't use books at the moment, but eventually it is like pretty good to know which books are pretty good, because I might actually try them in the future. Okay, that said, after I'm done creating my vertices, let's go ahead and use the SDL render geometry function. Okay, with a pair of parentheses. Now I don't remember what our parameters is required, so I can just hover over with my mouse pointer. It's gonna say I need my render parameter. I need a texture. I don't like texture, so I could set that equal to null PDR. The reason I set it to like null PDR and not just null, like not just an uppercase null, is because I have an asterisk here, so it's a pointer, and PDR stands for pointer in the null PDR. And then my SDL_vertices. Okay, so this is going to be my array of my rect vertices. Okay, and then I'll need the number of vertices. How many elements does my array consist of? And then indices. I don't know what indices are, so I'm not going to add anything for my indices and my num indices. Okay, that was a lot. What did I need first? I needed my render variable, and then I needed, let's see, I needed a texture. I don't know what texture, so I'll go with null PDR, and then I'll add a comma. Next up, I needed my SDL_vertex, which is this one, and my array name, so I'll go with something like rect vertices. Okay, and then I'm going to be adding a comma. After my vertices, I'll need how many elements does it consist of? My array consists of 4 elements, and then I gotta go with null PDR for my indices because I don't know what indices are, so I'll go with something like null PDR. Okay, and then let's go ahead and add a comma and set 0 for the number of indices, because like I don't know how many numbers it has as well, because like my indices is set to null, ending with a semicolon. Okay, and that should be pretty much it. Now for it, control is to save the code and run the command. Object-oriented programming is including. Okay, that's it. Let's go ahead and run the code. So I get my first terminal. Okay guys, I do not see my my rectangle at all this time. Actually, I don't see my rectangle. I don't know if gaming patterns use those, lol. Okay, that's it. Let me think. Why don't I see it? Maybe because I added a set render draw color. Okay, my alphas are 1.0. Okay, I think it is because I have these 2.5, and that is 1.0, 1.0, 1.0. Okay, I want this to work. This thing, I think it should work. For some reason, it's not working though. Alright guys, I'll go with Control-A, Control-C. Let's copy that. I recommend a separate book for object-oriented programming. Honestly, I feel like object-oriented programming is like the real fun part. Okay, render fill rect, this replaces that. So the only logical stuff that I could think of is like removing my set render draw color function. Let's actually remove that and try it one more time. If I were to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. I got my first window here. Okay, and my second window as well, but my second window does not have any drawings on it. Okay, that said, let's go with Control-Z. Okay, let's see why does that happen. So let me hit control to save the code. Okay, how doing? Karim, is that your pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. That's it. Let's go ahead and paste. Let's go with Shift Enter and say something like, let's say, I feel like I did everything correct. Although I don't see my rectangle on my screen, question mark, dot, dot, dot. Okay, let's see. Bro, what do you recommend for a newbie? How and where do I start? Honestly, I would like, if you're like a complete beginner and you do want to learn C++, I would like recommend learning, whatchamacallit, on firstly including IO stream. IO stream is basically that you gotta always like include that stuff because that is like the eyes and ears of your program because it like displays an output to your terminal and also it like gets input, if that made any sense. That's it. I would like recommend you to start learning how console outputs work, how console inputs work, how to create variables, what are constant variables and all that stuff. That's real all. I feel like once you learn the patterns, you kind of just use them unconsciously. That makes so much sense, guys. When you get to the scope of shipping something, just make code that works is more important knowing. That actually does make so much sense. Okay, people, look at me with an eyeball emoji. You had it. You summoned a rectangle to infinity beauty, but you made it invisible because all your vertices are sitting at the same point. Right now you're at rect.x axis, rect.y axis, that means all four corners of your rectangle exist in that exact same coordinate. Okay, SDL tried to draw it, but it's basically drawing a single pixel 4 times. You need to give each vertex a different corner of the rectangle. Rect.x axis, rect.y axis, didn't I do that? Oh, rect.x axis, rect.y axis, top right, rect.x axis plus rect.y axis, rect.x axis plus rect. Okay, wait. Hold up, guys. Top left, rect.x axis, rect.y axis. Top right, rect.x axis plus rect.width, rect.y axis. And then bottom blue, rect.x axis plus rect.width, rect.y axis plus rect.height. Rect.x axis, rect.width plus rect.height. Huh, so that's the exact pattern. Damn, how long are you working in software industry? 6 years, but I've been coding for like 12 years. That actually sounds pretty cool. Okay, that said, okay, this feels kind of easy, but I feel it's kind of complicating for some reason. I got the ChatGPT prompt for Python from the Discord. I'll use it. I will use the 100 days challenge to learn Python. Honestly, it sounds pretty cool. Good luck with learning the, good luck with your Python journey, Mech. Or is your name pronounced as Meki? I think it's Meki. Okay, that said, I was a nerd in middle and high school. That does sound pretty cool. Okay, that said, rect.x axis plus rect.width. So I add my x axis with my width and then y axis rect.x axis plus rect.width. Okay, that is bottom right. Hold up, guys, I might actually copy this real quick. Let's go ahead and paste it here. Okay, and then go with Shift Enter and see something like, let's say, I feel like I didn't wrap my head around this part. Maybe can you explain it again? Question mark. Okay, what are you learning or teaching here? Honestly, I am like learning how to add key controls in SDL3 using C++. That's it. Currently, I'm obsessed with. I don't know what. Currently I'm obsessed and I don't know why I just stuck on LLDs and design patterns that sound so cool. Okay, Vivek, focus your mind. You're thinking in pixels, but I need you to think in geometry. Guys, I was always a bad math student. That said, let's break this down like a true game warrior. A rectangle is not some mystical shape that SDL understands by default. It's two triangles switched together. Okay, to make those triangles, we define 4 corner points. Okay, each vertices has 2 things. Its position, X, Y, where it sits on the screen, its color, RGBA. Okay, RGB and A for alpha, its color radiates. Now, let's go line by line through your code. So rect.x axis, rect.y axis, position, rect.x, rect.y. is at the top left corner of your screen. Okay, so color is going to be 01001. Full red, no green, no blue, just fully visible, alpha 1.0. And then top right, okay, this is the confusing part, rec.x-axis plus rec.width. I add my x-axis with my width. Okay, then I go with rec.y-axis, position, move right from the top. Excuse me, guys. If yes, those are confusing, haha. Okay, and then move right from the top left by the rectangles is width. Bottom right, okay, for top right, I go with rec.x-axis plus rec.width. Okay, and then bottom left. I think I see, guys. I think I see. This might not be that confusing anymore. Okay, so that is red, green, yellow, blue. Okay, hold up, guys. I think I actually understand it. I might be able to write it on my own this time. Okay, so this is top left. Let me add a comment here that says something like top left. I'll go with top left. Okay, and then now for going with the top right, I'm going to be adding this with my rect.width. Okay, let's go with rect.width. And then add a comment here that says something like top right. Okay, and now this is going to be my bottom left. To go to the left side, I'm going to be adding that with my rect.width. And then let me add my rect.y-axis by my rect.height. This is going to be bottom right, so I'll add a comment that says something like bottom right. Alright, guys, there we go. Bottom right. Okay, okay, after bottom right, this is going to be bottom left. To go with the bottom left, I'm going to only add my rec.y-axis with my rec.height. And then let's add a comment here that says something like bottom right. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm going to add a hyphen here. And now, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, this should show it. So I get my first window right here. That's my second window. It still doesn't show. Did I mess something up again? Hold up, guys, let's get some things like ChatGPT. I think I didn't read a part of instruction all the way up here. Okay, okay, so it says the same mistake, so we try doing that. Then we need SDL to connect them into triangles. Okay, oh, we needed to connect them. Integer of indices, so I didn't do this. I gotta create an array of indices, which is 6. We go with 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3. What does that even mean? Okay, 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3. Okay, let's copy this part real quick. Okay, guys, I should have been good at geometry. I'm actually not that good with geometry. Alright, guys, let's go ahead and copy that part, paste it here, go with Shift Enter and say something like, should say, I think I understood about the vertices part. Although, can you explain this section as well? Question mark. Okay, let's see. Good. You're catching on, people, but listen closely because this part, the indices, is where many beginners get lost in a maze of triangles. Let's start from the top. In computer graphics, everything is drawn using triangles, not rectangles, circles, or fancy shapes. Just tiny triangles switched together like digital origamis. You already made 4 vertices. Oh, is this their positions? Okay, so 0 is top left, 1 is top right, 2 is bottom right, 3 is bottom left. Now, to make a rectangle, you need 2 triangles, okay? The first triangle connects vertices 0, 1, and 2. Okay, so 0, 1, and 2, so it connects them. The second triangle connects 2, 3, 0, 2, and 3. 0, 1, and 2, 0, 2, and 3. Then SDL underscore render geometry. Okay, you're telling SDL, what up, guys? Let me say something like, let's say, can you show me the 0, 1, 2 and 0, 2, 3 as a diagram question mark. I can't seem to whatchamacallit, how do I phrase this part? I can't seem to draw it on my mind. Guys, I cannot seem to, like, I can't visualize this part. I don't know how to phrase that properly. Okay, so here's your rectangle with vertices labeled. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, triangle 0, 1, 2. So 0, 1, and 2 is connected. That means, okay, triangle 0, 2, 3. That means connect the top, left, bottom, right. Okay, so 0, 2, and 3. So 0 is connected to 0 and 2 is connected to 3. Okay, and then 0 and 1 is connected to 2. I think it's like 1 and 2 that's connected to 0 here. Okay, I think I'll just remember the numbers 0, 1, 2 and 0, 2, 3. Okay, so 0, 1 and 2 are connected together, and then 0, 2 and 3 are connected together. I see, actually I think I see 0, 1 and 2 is one triangle here. 0, 2 and 3 is another triangle, so it's two triangles that have been like stuck together. What up guys, I think I actually understood that. Use Figma for this answer. What up guys, actually I think I actually did understand what that meant. Okay, now let's go ahead and create an integer of an array of indices. There we go, so I'll go with indices as an array which consists of 6 elements, which is going to be equal to a pair of curly braces. I'll go with 0, 1, 2 and 0, 2, 3. What up guys, 0, 1, 2 and then 0, 2, 3. Okay, ending with a semicolon. And then now, in my indices spot, I'm going to go ahead and add my indices array. Okay, and number of indices is 6. Now, if I were to go with Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. So I get my first window here. There we go guys, finally that good looking square. Okay, and it does move all over the screen. Although maybe I do want to like, whatchamacallit, increase the size of it. So I'll go with something like 100 pixels and 100 pixels. Now if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, my first window pops up. And my second window, okay guys, I think my second window did, okay, it did actually pop up. There we go. Okay guys, this is why I actually felt like it was worth going through all that trouble, because like I feel like, whatchamacallit, it looks so much better like after adding those specific different colors, because like this looks much better than like a plain red color. Okay, I think I see. That said, I do want to try this now with a rectangle, with a triangle as well. Maybe later I'll go on with a circle too. That's it. Let me start off by going with Control-A, Control-C. Actually, maybe I'll not show this to Sensei/ChatGPT. Okay, that's it. Now I'm going to be working with a triangle, just seeing if I remember how a triangle actually works. To go with the triangle, firstly, let me start off by including a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream. Okay, this should be something like hashtag include IO stream. Okay, and then I drink some water because guys, I feel like I'm getting a migraine. Okay, next up, let me go ahead and include a pair of ankle braces again. This time, since I am going to be using SDL3, let's go ahead and include SDL3. And then I'm going to include SDLs as header files as well, so SDL.h. And then next up, let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'll go with integer main, add a pair of parentheses. Now, my main function is going to be consisting of two parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc. The second parameter is going to be an array of argv, which is going to be a pointer. And then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my main function, I'm going to be adding an if statement to initialize my SDL and also check if my SDL was not initialized properly. So I could go with something like if not SDL underscore init if my SDL was not initialized properly. And then if my SDL underscore init underscore videos section was not initialized properly, I'm going to do something. Firstly, let's go ahead and add a standard C header with an insertion operator. I'm going to be giving myself a SDL underscore init header with a pair of, actually, let's add a colon here. And then let's use a function that actually gets me an header. That function is called something like SDL underscore get headers as function with a pair of parentheses. And then I'll go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. And then let me lastly go ahead and return one saying something went wrong in this part of code. Go check it out. Okay, perfect. Now, after I'm done adding an if statement and initializing my SDL and also checking if my SDL was not initialized properly, let's add another comment that does something. I might add a few game variables. These are going to be the general variables that I'm going to be needing for my game. For example, my windows is width and my windows is height type stuff. Okay, now for my game variables, firstly, I'm gonna go ahead and create a constant integer variable to tell. Let's go with something like a const and call something like width, which is going to be equal to 800 pixels. Which we call it 800 pixels. That is my vertical window size. Now I'll go. Actually, that is my horizontal window size. My bad, guys. And then for my vertical window size, I'm going to go with a constant integer of my windows' height, which is going to be equal to 600 pixels. And then since I am going to be moving my triangle using my keyboard buttons, I am going to be going with whatchamacallit. Let's go ahead and create a few velocities. So I could go with something like a floating point velocity for my x-axis underscore velocity is going to be something like, I don't know, maybe 7 pixels per frame. So I'll go with 7.0 floating point, and then I'll go with something like a floating point for my y-axis underscore velocity as well, which is going to be equal to 7.0f as well, which is like 7 pixels per frame. Okay, now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and actually add another comment that says that I'm going to be creating my window and my renderer. So I'll go with something like create a window and a renderer. Okay, now since I do want to create my window and renderer at the same time, since I am going to be creating my window and renderer at the same time, firstly, let's go ahead and create two variables representing or like consisting, all the attributes of my Windows structure. Guys, the sound is so complicating. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore window. This is a structure that has all the attributes that my window actually needs. So I'm going to be adding a pointer for my Windows variable. So now my Windows variable is a pointer to my this structure that consists of my Windows attributes. This is going to be set to something like null_ptr ending with a semicolon. Null_ptr is basically a placeholder, and then I'll go with something like a render as a structure as well and create a render as a local variable, which is going to be set to null_ptr as well, ending with a semicolon. Now after this, let's go ahead and add let's go ahead and actually use the function that does create my window and my renderer both at the same time. To do that, I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore create window and renderer function. Okay, so basically my create window and renderer function does create my window and my renderer at the exact same time, although it does require a few parameters. Let's think how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I am going to be requiring 6 parameters. The first parameter is going to be a title / a caption for my window. Let's go with something like SDL3 window. Okay, I'll go with SDL3 window created with an exclamation. I created a window. And then I'll go with a comma now. I'm going to be needing a width and a height for my second and my third parameter. My width and height, instead of like raw coding numbers and adding 800 and 600, I could use these two variables that I created up here under my game variables section. I could go with something like width and height. Okay, and then my fourth parameter is going to be a flag. I could go with something like SDL underscore window okay, underscore resizable flag. And if you guys didn't want to add this flag, you guys could go with 0 as well. It's like the same thing. That's it. Now for my fifth and sixth parameter, I'm going to be needing the memory address of my window local variable and my renderer local variable. So I'll go with the address of operator / an ampersand of something like a window, and then I'll go with something like an ampersand for my renderer. Okay, now that I'm done with that, let's go ahead and end my entire function with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Now that I actually created my window and my renderer, I'm going to be adding an if statement to check if they were not created properly and something was wrong in this block of code. To do that, I could go with an if statement and then a pair of parentheses. I'm going to go with something like if not a window, if my window was not created properly, or if my renderer was not created properly. I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Now, inside my if statement, I'm going to add a standard C error, okay, with an insertion operator that is going to give me the SDL underscore create window. Okay, what engine are you using? Honestly, I'm using Visual Studio. It's like an IDE, and also I'm not using like a game engine, although I am using like the SDL library, which is basically the same as like Pygames. Pygames just works for Python. SDL works for like C, C++, even C#, maybe a few more languages. Okay, that's go with something like render error. Uh, okay, perfect. Let me change that to something like error. Okay, now that I'm done creating my error, I'm going to add another insertion operator. This is going to be using the SDL underscore get error function. So I'm going to get myself an error if something did go wrong. And then I'll add another insertion operator of a standard end line, ending with a semicolon. Okay, now if my window or my renderer was not created properly, firstly, I'm going to be quitting my SDL. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses, ending with a semicolon. And then I'm going to be returning one saying that something went wrong here, check this part of code out. Okay, now after creating my window and my renderer and checking if they were not created properly, I'm going to do something. I'm a Python guy, but this is great. Sorry to interrupt again. Honestly, it wasn't like interrupting. That's it. I feel like actually that does sound pretty cool because like I do enjoy Python as well because I had like I think about 60 to 70 streams in my channel about me learning Python and working a lot with Py games, guys. It's been really fun. Okay, that's it. After after creating my window and my renderer, since I am going to be creating a triangle this time, I'm going to be adding a comment that says something like triangle properties. Okay, now for my triangle properties, I'm going to be needing three vertices: a dot for up, a dot for the bottom left, and a dot for the bottom right. Because like triangles has three lines. To do that, I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore F point. Okay, this is a structure for like an exact dot on my screen. Before, for like a rectangle, I did use SDL underscore F rect. Although SDL does not have a structure for like triangle. For example, SDL underscore F triangle. We gotta make that ourselves manually, guys. This is going to be equal to, actually this is going to be something called vertices. Okay, so vertices is array, which is going to be consisting of three elements in it, because like a triangle does consist of three lines slash three dots as well. I'm going to set that equal to a pair of curly braces. Now let's go ahead and add my vertices. So I am going to be going with okay, let's see something like an x-axis and a y-axis for all three vertices. This is going to be the trickier part. Okay, hey, how's your day going? Honestly, my day is going pretty good. How are you doing, comrade? I appreciate you joining the stream. That's it, guys. Let me see if I actually remember my my parameters. So this is going to be something like 400, 200. So 400.0f, 200.0f, and then I'm going to add a comma here. Let's go with another pair of curly braces. This time I'm going to go with something like 400.0f and 400.0f. Okay, and then I'm going to add another comma. Lastly, I'm going to go with something like 250 point, actually 300.0f and 250.0f. Okay, guys, I think my parameters are kind of correct. I mean, I feel like later I could do trial and error to like fix my triangle. That's it. I'm going to go ahead and end this with a semicolon. And now let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like main loop. So this is going to be my main game loop. And then I'm going to be creating four boolean variables first. So the first boolean variable is going to be something like w down, which is going to tell me if my w down is currently being pushed. Currently, am I pushing it down? I'm not pushing it down, so I'll set it to be equal to false. And then I'm going to add a comma, go with something like s down. I'm going to set that equal to false as well because I'm not pushing my S keyboard button down right now. And then I'll add a comma again and go with something like A down. My A is currently not being pushed down, so I'm going to be setting that equal to false as well. And lastly, I'll go with D down. My D is not being pushed down currently as well, so I'm going to set that equal to false too. Ending with a semicolon. Now, after that, I'm going to create another boolean value. This is going to be different, not the same category as my button presses. This is going to be for something like is running. So I'm going to go with something like a boolean of is running, which is going to be initially set to true, ending with a semicolon. And lastly, I would need another variable. This is going to be an event variable because I do want to check my event type. Excuse me, guys. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore event, which is going to be having a variable called event, ending with a semicolon. Excuse me again, guys. Okay, that's it. Now let's go ahead and add my actual while loop. So I'll go with something like while a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like while is running, or while my program is running, I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces and add another while loop. This is going to be my event loop. So a while loop inside of a while loop slash a nested loop or a nested while loop. This is going to be something like while a of parentheses. This is going to check for my current events. So to check for my current events, I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore poll events function with a pair of parentheses that does require a parameter which is going to be the memory address of my event variable. So my poll event basically it checks for all the events that I'm going to be looking inside of my while loop, and if one of that event is met, it does something that I set it to do. For example, I could go with something like an if statement and check my event type. So I'll go with if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore quit. If my event type is quit, if my player did quit my window, I'm going to be setting my is running, which is going to be set to false, ending with a semicolon. This basically means my entire while loop ends. And then after that, I'm going to be adding a few more events. For example, my button clicks. To do that, I could go with another if statement, sure, add a pair of parentheses. Let's say if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. If my event type is key down, if my user is pushing a button downwards off my keyboard, I'm going to do something. I think KV Kulks, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that said, if someone is pushing my key button down right now, I'm going to do something. Firstly, I'm going to be using switches here. Switches is basically the same as if/else, but it's like easier to write it and like it's lesser code. Okay, actually I feel it's not like lesser code, it's like much cleaner. So I'll go with switch and then add a pair of parentheses. Okay, for my first switch, let's go ahead and say something like if my event.key, and then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Now, basically, inside my switch, I'm going to do something. I'm going to add a few cases. I'll go with something like my case 1, which is going to be something like SDL key. If my SDL's key is W, then I'm going to do something. Firstly, let's go ahead and, I don't know, maybe... Okay, if my key is W, I'm going to go with my W down boolean variable. I'm going to set that equal to true, ending with a semicolon. Hold up guys, I might actually do this in the top line so it looks cleaner here. I'll go with something like W down is going to be set to true, ending with a semicolon. This means while my W button is being pushed down, this boolean value is going to be set to true. Okay, and then let's go ahead and break. Okay, and then let's go ahead and add my second case. So I'll go for my case 2. If my SDL key is, I don't know, maybe something like S, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to add a colon here and then go with something like S down, which is going to be set to true. My S is currently being pushed down, and then I'm going to go ahead and break, ending with a semicolon. Now for my case number 3, I'm going to go with something like if my SDL's key is currently, I don't know, maybe something like A, then I'm going to do something. Okay, my A is currently being pushed down, so I'll go with my A down boolean value. I'm going to set that equal to true as well, ending with a semicolon. And then let's go ahead and break. Now lastly, for my fourth case, I'm going to be adding a case checking if my SDL's key is, let's say, something like D. Okay, and then I'll add a colon while my D is being pushed down. I'm going to do something like D down is set to true, ending with a semicolon, and then I'm going to break. Okay, and that's pretty much it for like my SDL underscore key underscore downs event type. So if any of my keys are being pushed down, I'm going to be looking for these 4 keys. And then now that I'm done with that, I'm going to exit outside of my if statement and add another if statement for if I'm done clicking it. If my finger is being pushed upwards now, it means that key is not being pushed down anymore, which means I'm going to set these back to be false again. To do that, I could go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. If my event type is key up this time. Honestly, just to save time, instead of like manually typing the whole thing, I might just copy that part and then paste it here. And I'm just going to be changing key down to be something like key up, and then just change my trues to be false. Change the true to be false here as well. Okay, and then I'm going to change my true to be false, and lastly true to false. Okay, perfect. Now after that, after I'm done adding my event loop, let's go ahead and exit outside of my while loop right here. And then I'm going to be adding, let's say, a comment that says something like fill screen. So I'm going to be filling my screen. There we go. Okay, let's say I'm going to be filling my screen with cyan color because I do like prefer, that's actually the only RGB that I know. Maybe I might go with gray this time. Should I go with gray or cyan? Maybe cyan. Okay, I'll go with something like, okay, before I do fill my screen, firstly, I do gotta say color for my render because my render is like a paintbrush that does fill the screen for me. To do that, I could go with something like SDL underscore set render draw color function. The set render draw color function adds a color to my render, but I gotta set what all colors. So I will be needing 5 parameters. The first parameter is going to be my render variable. The second, third, and fourth parameter is going to be an RGB value. So I'll go with something like 0, 248, 255, which is basically an RGB value. And then I'll add a comma. My fifth parameter is going to be an opacity slash my alpha. How transparent or not transparent wants to be. I don't want it to be transparent at all, so I'm going to set my opacity to be 255, ending with a semicolon. Now, to actually fill my entire screen with a cyan color, I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore render clear function. Basically, the render clear function clears my entire screen with the color that I actually have in my render local variables. So I'm going to add the render parameter here. So my so my renderer is going to create actually clear my screen slash fill my screen with the color that I set here. Okay, perfect. And then after that, let's add a comment that says something like graphics. Okay, and honestly, before I do actually add my graphics, I do wanna add a comment that says something like key controls. This is going to be where I actually do set my keys to be true and false. For example, I did add all these stuff here and all that stuff. Okay, so firstly, actually, I added my stuff here, so I do want to do something when it's either true and don't want to do something when either of them is false. So I could go with something like if a pair of parentheses, let's say something like if my w down boolean variable is set to true, I'm going to do something. I'm going to go with something like, okay, this part is going to be a bit confusing. Hold up, guys. Okay, this is a triangle, right? So maybe I might go with my triangle properties, my vertices, that is the x-axis, y-axis. Okay, so I gotta go with the proper curly braces, and then I'm gonna go with my vertices at vertices at index of 0 is gonna increase by my it's gonna decrease by my y-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. Okay, vertices at index of 0. Did I spell it correct? So it's vertices. Let me go ahead and copy that real quick. So let's see if I spelled it wrong. Okay, vertices at index of 0 is going to decrease by y-axis underscore velocity. Should I go with something like dot y-axis? Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to go with something like my vertices at index of 1 dot y-axis is going to be decreasing by y-axis underscore velocity. What up, guys? This part might be a little confusing to actually do because this is not like a rectangle, so I can't just go with like rect dot x-axis y-axis. Okay, I know this part is correct. So okay, my x-axis goes up if my down is being pushed. I want my entire triangle to be going upwards. I think it's correct. Okay, I'm going to decrease that by my y-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon, and then vertices at index of 2 dot y-axis is going to decrease by y-axis underscore velocity as well, ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. And then after that, let's go ahead and add another if statement. I'll go with if a pair of parentheses that checks if my s is being pushed down. If that is, I'll go with a pair of curly braces, and then I'm going to do something. I'll go with vertices at index of 0 dot y-axis is this time going to increase by my y-axis underscore velocity. Okay, and then vertices at index of 1 dot y-axis is going to increase by my y-axis underscore velocity as well, ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'll go with vertices at index of 2 dot y-axis, which is going to increase by my y-axis underscore velocity as well, ending with a semicolon. Okay, now I'm going to add another if statement. I'll go with if a pair of parentheses. Let's say this time if my a is being pushed down, if that is set to true, I'm gonna go with something like my vertices at index of 0.x-axis this time, which is going to be decreasing by my x-axis underscore velocity ending with a semicolon, and then vertices at index of 1.x-axis is going to be decreasing by my x-axis underscore velocity as well ending with a semicolon. Lastly, vertices at index of 2.x-axis is going to be decreasing by my x-axis underscore velocity as well ending with a semicolon. And now lastly, I'm gonna go with my final if statement. If a pair of parentheses, let's say if my D is currently being pushed down, then I'm gonna do something as well. I'm gonna go with my vertices at index of 0.x-axis is going to be this time increasing by my x-axis underscore velocity ending with a semicolon. Vertices at index of 1.x-axis is going to be increasing by my x-axis underscore velocity as well ending with a semicolon. And then vertices at index of 2.x-axis is going to be increasing by my x-axis underscore velocity ending with a semicolon. Okay, and that's pretty much it for, I think that's pretty much it for my key controls. Alright, now I'm gonna go back under my graphics and now add my graphics. For my graphics, firstly, I'm gonna be going with something like SDL underscore set render draw color function. Okay, so I'm gonna set my render to draw a color. Honestly, this is gonna be like the background of my my triangle, not the inside center color. So I'm going to be setting my background slash my outline to be like black, and then my opacity slash alpha to be 255 because I don't want it to be transparent at all. Okay, and then let's go ahead and use the SDL underscore vertex structure. There we go. This is going to be, let's say, having an array, a local array called something like, I don't know, maybe triangle. Okay, with a pair of square brackets, my array consists of, let's say, something like, okay, it consists of 3 items ending with a semicolon. Excuse me, guys. Okay, I'm not going to end it with a semicolon. I'm going to be adding the values from my array as well. Excuse me, guys. So I'm going to be setting that equal to a pair of curly braces, going in a new line. Now, I'm going to be adding a outer curly braces. Okay, honestly, let's go with 3 outer curly braces. So I'll get 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and now I'm going to be actually adding this in a new line so it looks much better. Now, inside of my first outer curly braces, I'm going to be adding an inner curly braces, and then I'll add a comma, add another inner curly braces. I'll do the same thing for my bottom one as well. Add a pair of curly braces, curly braces. Lastly, I'll do that for this as well. There we go. So, my triangles array has 3 curly braces. Inside each curly braces, there is another curly brace, if that made any sense, guys. Okay, now my first outer curly braces, actually, just so you guys could see, I might get these in like a new line. There we go. So these two are under 1 curly braces. These two are under 2nd curly braces. These two are under my 3rd curly braces. Now my top curly braces does require my triangles as x-axis and y-axis. I could do that by, I don't know, typing something like okay, I think I know where I kind of messed up here. Okay, so I'm going to be adding multiple f points instead of just going with 1 vertices. Instead of going with an array, I'm going to go ahead and delete this, change this to v1. That is going to be equal to, let's say, something like 400.0f and 200.0f. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and end that with a semicolon. Go with another SDL underscore f point. Guys, it took me a while to figure a mistake out here. I was thinking that something was being wrong here. I was just kind of confused what messed up here. I think I jogged my memory up. That's it, Hiding Mystery Universe. I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, next up I'm going to go with something like 400.0f, and then I'll go with 400.0f as well, ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'll go with my final 3rd vertices. I'm learning Python, bro. Honestly, Python does sound pretty fun. I did like have a whole 100-day series on Python. I have like a bunch of lives in that. If you guys do enjoy Python, you guys could actually watch that, because like I did make a game that consists of like a lot of I think a lot of contents and logic in it, because like I did have like buff logic, meets, and all that stuff. That's and lastly for my vertices 3, that is going to be equal to something like, I think it was 300.0f and 250.0f. There we go. Okay, ending with a semicolon. How can I improve vocabularies? Honestly, I would like suggest you guys talk a lot, because like the more you talk, the more you guys are comfortable with talking, and the more you guys are comfortable with talking, the better you guys speak, if that made any sense, guys. Okay, I might go with something like vertices 1.x axis, y-axis. This is going to be vertices 2.y-axis. Lastly, that's going to be something like vertices 3.y-axis. Okay, and then I'm going to be changing this to something like vertices 1, changing that to something like vertices 2, and lastly, I'm going to change that to vertices 3. Okay, honestly, I might copy that, but I don't think I can. So I'm going to change this to something like vertices 1. Let's change that to vertices 2, change that to vertices 3. And last but not the least, change that to vertices 1, change this to vertices 2, change that to vertices 3. Okay, perfect. Now, I'm just going to be going here and tapping something like vertices 1.x-axis, comma, vertices 2.x-axis. I'm going to go in my second inner prof curly braces. I'm going to be needing an RGBA value. Do you have a job, brother? Honestly, actually, I'm kind of jobless, guys. Long time, what's up, man? Hiding Hypertech. I appreciate you joining the stream. It has been pretty long. That's it. I think I would have stuck with an array. Honestly, that does make sense. I should have actually used array. I didn't like see the point of moving, but then I felt like I did this with like muscle memory, because like this is the way I actually did do it initially. But thinking about it, I feel array would have been like much better in case I had to like add more stuff and everything. That's it. Maybe I'll try an array next time. Okay, and then I'm going to go with something like an RGBA, which is going to be in floating point number. So I'll go with 1.0f. This is going to be red. 0.0f. This is going to be a B value. 0.0f, which is going to be a RGB. Actually, that is red, that is blue, and that is green. And lastly, I'll need a alpha / opacity, which is going to be 1.0f. And now, under my second curly braces, is first inner curly braces, I'm going to go with vertices 2.x-axis, comma, vertices 2.y-axis. And then now I'll go in the second inner curly braces. I'm going to go with something 0.0f, and then something like 1.0f for my blue, and then I'll go with something like 0.0f for my green, and 1.0f for my alpha. And then lastly, let's go with something like vertices 3.x-axis, comma, vertices 3.y-axis. Okay, and then let's go with something like 0.0f for my R, 0.0f for my B as well, other 1.0f for my G, and 1.0f for my alpha. Okay, perfect. Let me keep 1f here. I think Mr. Universe, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that's it. That's pretty much it for my triangles as colors. Now let's go ahead and use the SDL underscore render. So I'm going to say my render to render a geometry. Okay, so I'll use the render geometry function that does require a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be my render, second parameter is going to be texture, third is going to be my vertices, which is my array. Fourth is going to be how many elements consist of my array. In this case, it is 3. Can you speak Urdu, Hindi? Honestly, I can like actually speak Hindi, but I'm not as fluent in it as I'm in English. That's it. I actually don't know how to speak Urdu. Okay, that's it. I'll go with something like this is going to be my renderer variable. And then I don't have what you call it a texture, so I'm going to set this to be null PDR, because they wanted like a memory address or like a pointer to my texture. Okay, next up, I think, what did I need? I think I needed my, my vertices, which is my SDL underscore vertexes value. That is an array of my triangle, so I'm going to go with triangle that consists of 3 elements, okay? And then I needed indices, so I'm pretty sure I don't need to add indices. So I'll go with something like null PDR for my indices, and then I'll add a comma and a 0, because like I don't have any indices. Ending my function with a semicolon. Okay, and after I'm done creating a geometry, let's go all the way down at a comment that says something like, I don't know, something like present, because I do want to present my render on my screen. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore render present. Okay, my render present is going to be requiring a parameter of my renderer, ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. After that, this honestly shouldn't like come under my FPS's category, but I feel like it is like actually under my graphics category, but I feel it's not actually under my graphics, because this is like a separate FPS, which is like frame per second. Okay, to add 60 FPS, I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore delay function with a pair of parentheses. This is going to be 16 milliseconds, which is basically 60 frames per second. Bro, please speak Hindi. I want to listen. Honestly, guys, I feel like I'm not as fluent in it. I can like speak, but I feel it's kind of awkward because like I've been like commentating English for so long, and I feel like I wouldn't even be able to like express myself properly because like I don't know much vocabulary or stuff. If that made any sense, guys. Okay, that said, now after I'm done adding my FPS, that's pretty much it. Now I'm gonna exit outside of my while loop, and firstly, let's go ahead and actually work on some cleanup. This is gonna be after my user exits the window. Firstly, I want to destroy my window, so I could go with something like SDL underscore destroy window. Okay, so I'll go with SDL underscore destroy window function with a pair of parentheses. This does require my window parameter, actually my window variable as a parameter. And then I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Hey bro, don't you get tired of speaking continuously and streaming every single day, that too in the night? Honestly, it's actually not night for me. It is like almost 4 p.m. for me. That's it. I used to get like really exhausted when I first started. I feel like I'm kind of used to it, guys, now. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and hit Control S to save the code, and if I were to run the command, let's see what happens. So I get my first window right here. And I get my second window. Although I do not see my triangle. It could be because my coordinates are completely messed up. Right here, because like I actually forgot the I forgot the actual coordinates for this part. Should this be 250.0f and should that be 300? What up, guys? Let me actually try that, because like I feel it's so hard to like memorize the actual coordinates for my triangle. That said, I get my first window, second window. Okay, it does not show anything. Okay, maybe I'll go with something like Control Z. Okay, hold up. Let's go with Control A, Control C. Copy that. Let's get Sensei slash ChatGPT here. Let me go ahead and paste this. Go with Shift Enter and say something like, so say I feel like. Let's go with something like I feel like I messed up a bit. Okay, because I can't see my let's say something like I can see my triangle. Okay, holy Henry bro, chat will cook you. Guys, that does make sense because like I can't even read it properly. That's it, people. Look at me. You did mess up, but not fatally. Your triangle is invisible because you betrayed the coordinate gods. Honestly, yeah, that does make sense. Like I feel like I didn't add correct coordinates. You wrote this, so vertex 1, vertex 2 dot x-axis, x-axis, x-axis. I should have changed it to y-axis. There we go, guys. These are the tiny mistakes that I keep making. That's it. I'm gonna go with controllers to save the code and run the command. Okay, I still don't see my triangle because like I see an empty window. What up, guys? Let's go ahead and delete this. And guys, actually ignore the background voice if you guys can like listen to anything, because like I feel like I could hear something. Okay, that's it. Next up, I'm gonna go with something like see the first line, x-axis, x-axis. Here's the corrected way. Vertices 1 dot x-axis, vertices 1 dot y-axis. Okay, then render as your geometry already did. That's it. Now if you run, you'll see the beautiful RGB color. So null PDR 0, okay, living breathing color, obeying keys like your gold, digital beast, red, green, blue. Okay, I think I fixed it. Vertices 1. Oh, okay, my bad, guys. It's vertices 1 dot y-axis, vertices 2, vertices 2. Okay, now if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, that should work, guys. Okay, I made a real silly mistake. And guys, I feel like my triangle is kind of misproportional. Although it does look like kind of a triangle. Like it looks it looks like a cone, honestly. I should have like colored brown or something. Okay, that does move, and I like the colors. The reason like I do use this actual SD underscore vertex to like color my shape is because I feel it looks like kind of cool. That's it. Let me run it again real quick. Okay, perfect. Alright, next up, let's go ahead and see something. What happens if I actually change this to be 250.0f and change that to be 300.0f? If I were to save the code and run the command, okay, I'm just curious to see what kind of triangle would that be. I mean, it is like a pretty slanting triangle. It's just my coordinates that's messed up. What if I change that to 300.0f? I want to get like a perfectly standing triangle, like if that made any sense, guys. Okay, that made it look even worse. Okay, I mean, I think that's pretty correct. I think that's pretty good. That said, I do want to try one last, because like this is the final stream where I do wrap up all my key controls. I do want to work with circles as well, because those were the 3 shapes that I did like work a lot with. That said, to go with a circle, firstly let me go ahead and include a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream, and then let's go ahead and add another pair of ankle braces. Adding Rajesh, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, and then since I am going to be using SDL3, I'm going to include SDL3 slash SDL.h, which is basically all the header files for SDL. And then let's go ahead and create a main function. Okay, what languages do you learn programming in? Honestly, I did like whatchamacallit, have a whole Python for 100 days series where my goal by the end of that series was to make a game in general, and I did like write a 470 lines code using Pygames and Python, so I think I know Python and now C++ as well. That said, gay guys, I'm actually pretty straight. That said, hiding long story, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that's it now. My main function is going to be requiring two parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc, and then the second parameter is going to be a character to an array of argv, which is going to be an array because it has a pair of square brackets. Okay, and then let's go with a pair of curly braces. Now I'm going to be adding an if statement to check if my SDL was not initialized properly while initializing it as well. Howdy, Jay, I appreciate you joining the stream. What's wrong with being happy? I feel like I'm pretty happy, guys. Okay, hello brother, what you doing? Honestly, today I'm going to be wrapping up key controls in like SDL3. I've been doing this for the past 3 streams, so I mean, I did like feel pretty confident to like move on to the next topic today, but I thought might as well like work on it today as well. So, cause I was sure that I knew it properly, but there were like a few things that I didn't know about. That said, what kind of library is SDL3? Honestly, SDL3 is basically like, I think it's like almost exactly the same as Pygames and Python, but this works with like C++, C#, and like C as well. Harding is charged. I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that's it. Let's go with something like if not. I'm gonna go with if not SDL underscore init. If my SDL was not initialized properly, and my SDL underscore init underscore video. If the video section was not initialized properly, I'm gonna do something. I'll go with something like a standard C editor with an insertion operator. This is gonna give me something like an SDL underscore init editor. Okay, and then I'm going to go in a new line at another insertion operator. I'm going to be using the SDL underscore get editor function. This function actually gets me an editor. And then I'll go with an insertion operator. And then let's go with something like a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Lastly, let's return once saying something went wrong in this part of code. And then let's go ahead and drink some water because I feel I'm kind of dehydrated, guys. Hold up. Okay, now after I'm done adding an if statement, excuse me guys, let's go ahead and add a few game variables. Game variables are basically the variables that I would need in general. For example, my window's width, my window's height, velocities, and all that stuff. So the first variable is going to be something like a constant integer of my width. This is going to be my window's width, which is going to be set to something like 800 pixels per frame ending with a semicolon. And then let's go with something like a constant integer of height. This is going to be my window's height, which is going to be equal to 600 ending with a semicolon. And then after that, I honestly might have to create a x-axis and a y-axis velocity as well. So I'll go with something like a float of x-axis underscore velocity, which is going to be equal to, and guys, do you feel the lag? Is like my OBS lagging for some reason? Okay, I don't think it's actually lagging. Alright, that said, I'm going to go with something like x-axis underscore velocity, which is going to be something like, I don't know, maybe 7.0 floating point ending with a semicolon, and then I'll go with something like a float of a y-axis underscore velocity as well, which is going to be equal to 7.0f as well, ending with a semicolon. And now that I'm done creating a few game variables, let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like create window and renderer. So I'm going to be creating my window and renderer. There we go. Okay, since I do want to create them at the same time and not separately, I'm going to be creating two local variables of a structure and setting them equal to a null PDR. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore window. This is a structure that consists of all the attributes for my window. I'm going to be setting this to a pointer of my window local variable, which is going to be set to null PDR ending with a semicolon. And then let's go with something like SDL underscore renderer. It's a structure that consists of all the attributes of my renderer, of my actual renderer, which is going to be set to a renderer. What up, guys? There we go. A render local variable that is going to be set to null PDR ending with a semicolon. And then now that I've created the two local variables, let's use the function that actually creates my renderer. I could go with something like SDL underscore create. Ah, cool. It seems like you've come very far. By the way, you've gotten good with syntaxes. Honestly, I appreciate you. Ili- Ili- Ilias, is that how you pronounce your name? Honestly, I appreciate it. That does make a lot of sense because, like, when I first started C++, I felt like these syntaxes were really tough. But now that I'm trying to understand how they work, I feel it makes more sense and it makes it easier to actually use it. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the create window and renderer function with a pair of parentheses. Now my create window and renderer function is going to be requiring 6 parameters. The first parameter is going to be title slash a caption from a window. I could go with something like SDL3 window created. There we go, exclamation, and then I'm going to add a comma. Now I'll need a width and height. For my width and height, I could go ahead and use my width variable, which is 800 pixels, and height variable, which is 600 pixels. And then I'm going to need a, a window flag. If you guys don't want to add a flag, you guys could add 0 here. But I do want to add a flag that makes my window resizable. So I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore window underscore resizable flag. And then let's add a comma. Now let's go ahead. Now I'm going to be needing the memory address of my window local variable and a renderer local variable. So to get the memory address, I could use the address of operator or a ampersand for, let's say, something like my window, and then the ampersand for my renderer local variable. Okay, once I'm done with that, let's go ahead and end my entire function with a semicolon. And were these like 6 parameters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I think there were 6. Okay, now after I'm done creating my window and renderer, let's add a if statement that checks if I actually did create them properly or if something went wrong. To do that, I could go with something like if a pair of parentheses, let's say something like if not window, if my window was not created properly, or if my renderer was not created properly, I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces, and then let's go ahead and add a standard C error with an insertion operator that gives me something like, I might go and add an insertion operator here because like my function, my error name is going to be a bit big. So I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore create window and renderer error. Okay, so I got a SDL underscore create window and renderer error. I'll go and add another insertion operator and use the SDL underscore get errors function. This function actually gets me the error. Then let's go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Now, if my window or my renderer did not be created properly, firstly, I do want to exit my SDL. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'm going to return one ending with a semicolon saying something went wrong here. Go check it out. Okay, now after I'm done creating my SDL and my after I'm done creating my window and my renderer and checking if they were not created properly, I'm going to be adding a comment here that says something like circle properties because this time I'm going to be working with a circle. Guys, I hope that I remember the formula. I'm going to go with something like circle properties. Okay, now for my circle properties, firstly, let's go ahead and do something. I honestly might go ahead and add a circles as x-axis because like there is no f rect or like whatchamacallit f point or f line to create a circle. So I gotta actually manually create my variables. I'm gonna go with something like an integer of circles as x-axis, which is gonna be something like 100. Maybe I'll go with 200, ending with a semicolon. Then I'll go with something like an integer of circles as y-axis, which is going to be equal to 200 as well, ending with a semicolon. Then I'm gonna go ahead and I'll need a radius instead of a width and height for my circle because like the radius is like the thickness of my circle. So I'll go with something like an integer of radius, okay, which is going to be equal to, I don't know, maybe 50 because like I want my radius to be 50 thick, if that made any sense, guys. Okay, after I'm done creating my circles as properties as all the attributes, I'm gonna go ahead and create my main loop. So I'll go ahead and add a comment that says main loop. For my main loop, since I do want to add key controls and like move my shape using my keys, I'm going to be creating 4 boolean variables. The first is going to be a boolean variable for w down. Is my w being pushed down currently? It's currently not being pushed down, so I'll set it to be false. And then I'll go with something like s down. Is my s being pushed down currently? It's not, so I'll go with a false as well. And then hiding is charged. I appreciate you joining the stream. I have to jump off here. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. YouTube needs more of this. Honestly, I appreciate it, Ginger Cookie. I'll catch you next stream. That's it. I'll go with something like a down. Is my a down being currently pushed? Since it's not, I'm going to be setting that to be false as well. And lastly, I'm going to check if my D is being pushed down. It's currently not being pushed down, so I'm going to set that to be false as well. Now I'm going to end this with a semicolon, and then I'm going to be needing another boolean variable. This boolean variable is called something like is running. I'm going to set that to be true initially. So there we go. Okay, and then I'm going to be needing a final variable. This variable is going to be an event variable that is going to be consisting of all the attributes from my SDL underscore events structure, because I do need a variable to like iterate over to check my current event type. So I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore events structure, which is going to be having an event variable ending with a semicolon. Now finally, let's go ahead and create my actual while loop. So I'll go with something like while a pair of parentheses. Let's go with something like while is running, while my program is running, or while my is running is set to true. I'm going to do something. Let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like event loop. I'm going to be creating a event loop. If this loop is going to be checking for my current event type, whether it be my button clicks or something like that. To do that, I'm going to add another while loop. So a while loop inside of a while loop slash a nested while loop or a nested loop. My inner while loop with a pair of parentheses is going to be looking for something like actually it's going to be requiring a parameter of SDL underscore poll event. Basically, the SDL underscore poll event function does check all the events that is currently being going on inside my while loop, because I am going to be looking for a bunch of event types. If one of those event types is met, they execute that, and then they don't execute it anymore, guys, if that made any sense. Although it does require a parameter, it requires the memory address. I'll use the address of operator or ampersand of my event variable that consists of all the attributes of my SDL underscore events structure. Guys, that was honestly a mouthful to say. That said, now after that, I'm going to be adding an if statement to look for a specific event type. So I'm going to go with something like if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore quit. So if my event type is quit, if my player did click the top right, the X in the top right, the red color stuff. Okay, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to set my is running boolean variable to be equal to false, ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to be adding a few events that like converts my false, my W down, S down, A down, and D down to be false to true if my button is being pushed down, and if they're not pushing that anymore, it is going to be set back to false. It's honestly kind of easy to do that. I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses and check if my event.type there we go is equal to SDL underscore event underscore, let's go with something like key underscore down. So while my keys are being pushed down, I'm going to do something. First time seeing a beneficial YouTube live. Honestly, it does actually. That sounds pretty cool, guys. Okay, that said, after that, I'm going to be adding something like matches. So this time I'm going to be using few match case. Okay, guys, I keep forgetting this is not Python. I'm going to be not using matches. I'm going to be using switches. So I'll go with something like switch with a pair of parentheses. Now I'm going to be adding a condition. So I'll go with my event.key. Instead of event.type, I'm going to go with my event.keys, this current key that's being pushed down, and then I'll add a pair of curly braces. Now I'm going to be adding a few cases. My case one is going to see if my SDL's key is, let's say, something like W. I'll add a colon. If my key is W, I'm going to do something. Let's go with something like my W down boolean variable. I'm going to set that equal to true, ending with a semicolon. Then let's go ahead and break, ending with a semicolon. Okay, can I gotta do that for like my, my S, A, and D as well. What up, guys? I'm gonna fix my breaks, this typo. There we go. Okay, now for my case 2. If my SDL's key is, let's say, something like S, if my S is currently being pushed down, I'm going to do something. I'll go with my S down boolean value. I'm going to set that equal to true, ending with a semicolon, and then let's go ahead and break. Now, for my case 3, I'm going to go with something like case, and then if my SDL's key, let me just zoom a bit. There we go. If my SDL's current key is, let's say, something like A, if my A is being pressed, I'm going to add a colon, and then I'll go with something like A down, which is going to be set to true, ending with a semicolon, and then let's go ahead and break. And then lastly, I'm going to check if my SDL's key, so I'll go with something like SDLK. If my key is, let's say, something like D, if my D is being pushed down, I'm going to do something. I'm going to go with something like my D down boolean value. Let's go ahead and set that equal to true as well, ending with a semicolon. Then I'm going to break, ending with a semicolon. And that's actually pretty much it. By the way, the camera quality isn't very good right now. Honestly, did it like get blurry or something? Oh, I see a few particles. I should actually fix that after the stream. Actually, I might actually whatchamacallit, look into that after the stream, because like when I like first got the camera, it was like pretty good, but like ever since I changed my like PC, I did like mess with a few settings, so like I feel like my settings are kind of whatchamacallit messed up. I might have to look into that after the stream. That's it. Let's go ahead and copy my entire if statement, and then I'm going to be pasting it all over here again for like saving time. Now I'm just going to be changing my event type. Instead of my SDL underscore event underscore key down, I'm going to change it to something like up. While my key is not being pushed down anymore, I'm going to be changing all these things to be false again. Let's be false. Let's change that to false as well. Lastly, I'll change this to false as well. Okay, perfect. And that's pretty much it for all the event loops that I needed. So I'm going to go ahead and exit outside of my event loop, which is my inner while loop. And then let's zoom all the way in, add a comment that says something like key controls. So now I'm going to be working with my key controls. Alright guys, let me remove OBS from here. There we go. Okay, how can I donate to this? Honestly guys, I didn't like set any donate buttons or anything. That's it. I do appreciate you guys thinking about it. Okay, that's it. Next up, for my key controls. Firstly, let's go ahead and do something. I'm gonna go ahead and add a if statement to check my current key. What's like if my current key is being pressed. So I'll go with something like if my W is currently being pushed down, I'm gonna do something. Let's go ahead and I don't know, maybe I'll go with something like my circles' x-axis is going to be increasing by my x-axis. Actually, my circles' x-axis will decrease by my x-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. Maybe just to save like some lines, I'm gonna go and add it here. So I'll go with circles' x-axis is going to decrease by my x-axis. Circles' y-axis is going to be decreasing by my y-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. And I'll add another if statement if a pair of parentheses. Let's say if my s is currently being pushed down, if that is set to true, I'm going to go ahead and set my circles' y-axis to increase by my y-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. Then I'll go with another if statement. Let's say something like if my a is being pushed down, if that is set to true, this time I'll go with my circles' x-axis and decrease that by my x-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'll go with something like if my d is currently being pushed down. But guys, if a pair of parentheses, if my d is currently being pushed down, I'm going to be increasing my circles' x-axis by my x-axis underscore velocity, ending with a semicolon. And that's pretty much it for my key controls. Let's go ahead and add another comment that says something like fill screen now, because I am going to be filling my screen. I'll go with something like fill screen. There we go. Okay, now for my fill screen, firstly, let's go ahead and add a color to my render, because like my render is like a paintbrush that actually does paint my entire screen, so I do gotta add a color there. To do that, I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore set render. I'm gonna set my render to draw a color. So I'll go with set render draw color function with a pair of parentheses. Now my SDL underscore set render draw color function does require the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parameters. The first parameter is going to be my render variable. The second, third, and fourth parameter is going to be an RGB value. So I'll go with something like 0, 248, 255. That's the RGB for a cyan color. And then a alpha slash my opacity, which is going to be set to 255, ending with a semicolon. Okay, now after I'm done adding a color to my render, let's go ahead and use a function that actually fills my entire screen with that color. So I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore render clear function. Basically, the render clear function clears my entire screen with the color of my render local variable, ending with a semicolon. How can a person have a passion in coding? Guys, honestly, that does make sense. I don't know what actually got me in coding, because like first I thought that any game could like make any like coding language could like make a game, so I was like, might as well make a game using Python. Apparently I didn't know like C++ was the original language to make a game, but eventually the more I programmed, the more I thought that it's actually kind of fun. And like if they do understand stuff in like programming, it does sound pretty cool as well, guys. That said, after I fill my screen, let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like graphics. Now for my graphics, firstly, let's go ahead and do something. Okay, this is the confusing part, guys. Okay, I might not know much of this part because I won't have to use the SDL underscore set render draw color. Instead, I could go with something like SDL underscore vertex, okay, because I do want to add a good gradient color instead of just like a bland color. So I'll go with something like vertex, okay, that does have something like a circle, I'll go with something like circle. Okay, this is going to be an array which consists. Okay, this is a confusing part. Am I asked Sensei slash ChatGPT about this part? Because like I don't know how many lines does a circle have, because it does not have lines, it has points. That said, I am going to be at least drawing a circle first in my screen, so I might go with something like SDL underscore, let's say something like set render draw color function. I'm going to set my render to draw a color. Let's say my circle, I want it to be, I don't know, maybe red, so I might go with something like 25500 and 255 for my alpha, ending with a semicolon. Now, after my SDL underscore set render draw color, I'm going to go ahead and add a nested for loop to actually draw a circle on my screen, because like SDL doesn't have a function, for example, like fill circle type stuff like it has for like fill rect. So we gotta actually manually fill our circle. To do that, I'll go with something like a for loop, and then let's go with something like an index-based for loop. So for every integer of direction x, which equals to negative radius, ending with a semicolon, while my direction x is less than or equal to my positive radius, I'm going to do something. I'm going to go ahead and increment my direction x by 1, so I'll go with direction x plus plus. Okay, you have to make cool projects. You'll enjoy the fruits of your harvest. Actually, it does make a lot of sense, guys. I program for a living. It's fun watching all those lines of codes create a product used by others. It's honestly a hobby. Did I do Roblox games for fun? That actually sounds pretty cool. Okay, that's a go with the pair of curly braces. Now let's add an inner for loop. So I'll go with for a pair of parentheses. Let's go with something like for every integer of direction y, which equals to negative radius, ending with a semicolon. While my direction y is less than or equal to my positive radius, I'm going to go ahead and increment my direction y by 1. So I'll go with minus minus. And then let's go ahead and add a pair of curly braces again. Now, before I do actually draw my circle using the SDL underscore render point, I'm going to be adding an if statement. Okay, now I could like actually import the C math library and then go with something like the hypotenuse. Is that what we say of direction x and direction y if that is less than or equal to my radius? Although I want to do it manually, so I'll go with something like if my direction x squared, so direction x multiplied by direction x, plus my direction y multiplied by my direction y is less than or equal to my radius squared, so radius multiplied by my radius. That's when I'm going to do something. Now let's use the function that actually does draw my circle. So I'll go ahead and use the SDL underscore render point function. So I'm going to render a point. Now my SDL underscore render point function, it requires 3 parameters. The first parameter is going to be, let's say, my render variable. What up guys, maybe I'll go in a new line. There we go, my render variable. The second parameter is going to be x1, so I'll go with something like my circles as x-axis plus my direction x, and then I'll add a comma. Now I'll need my circles as y-axis plus my direction y. Okay, and that's honestly pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and end that with a semicolon. Maybe I end this with a semicolon. There we go. Okay, and then now after I'm done creating a circle, I'm going to go ahead and exit outside of my for loop, which is all the way here. And then, is there anything else that I had to do? I added my key controls, filled my screens. Let's go ahead and present my render on my screen. So I'll add a comment that says something like present. Okay, now I'm going to use the SDL underscore render. I'm going to say my render to present itself on the screen, guys, or we won't be able to see our renders as color. It is going to be black and white. That's it. This is going to be requiring a parameter of my render variable, ending with a semicolon. Okay, now after I'm done presenting my render, let's go ahead and add a few FPS. FPS are basically frames per second. To add FPS, I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore delay function with a pair of parentheses that does require a parameter in milliseconds. I'll go with 16 milliseconds, which is basically 60 frames per second, ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. That's honestly pretty much it. Now let's go ahead and exit outside of my main loop. Add a comment that says something like cleanup. So I'm going to be doing some cleanup right now. For my cleanup, firstly, let's destroy my window. So I'll go with SDL underscore destroy window function with a pair of parentheses. This is going to be having my window variable as a parameter, ending with a semicolon. And then let's go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses, ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'm going to return 0, ending with a semicolon, saying everything went good. Now, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. I get my first terminal and my second terminal with a red circle. My red circle does move around, although I do want it to be gradient. I didn't know how to add my circle to be a gradient color, so I'll go with something like Control I'll go with a control C, copy that. Let's get some say slash ChatGPT here. Let's go ahead and paste that, shift enter and say something like, let's say I was done with my triangle and I did start working with a circle. I got my circle moving, although how can I make it gradient like the rect and the triangle question mark? I don't want it I don't want it to be only red. Okay, well, cool. Honestly, those are pretty cool. I appreciate your log story. That's it, huh? Good, you've tasted control. Now you want beauty. That's the right kind of hunger, people. Your circle exists, but right now it's just lifeless red blob. You want it to glow with gradient. Okay, it is gradient. Like a rectangle and triangle color bleeding for center to edge alive like plasma. Here's the truth. Okay, SDL underscore render point can only draw solid colors, no pixel per gradients. Okay, so get a gradient circle. Method 1, manual gradient with colors, still CPU based. You can simulate a gradient by changing color pixel based on distance from these circles' center. Let's make this color fade from red center to blue edge. So for we indexed we did all this stuff. Float distance or dist, which equals to the squared f of direction x multiplied by direction x plus direction y multiplied by direction y. Okay, and then I see. Okay, so this is basically direction x multiplied by direction x plus direction y multiplied by direction x, while this is less than or equal to my radius multiplied by radius. Wait, this is something different. That is the square root of this, and then if my dist is less than or equal to my radius, floating point t dist radius. Alright guys, this looks a bit complicating. Let's go to the second method. Okay, I do want to use the second method. Okay, vertex geometry GPU powered. If you want real smooth gradients and more performance, you approximate your circle with triangles. Think of 32 small triangles forming a disk. Each triangle vertex could have its own color, and SDL underscore render geometry will handle the gradient before, but that's a bigger step for GPU. For now, implement method 1 inside your loop. Okay, you'll still see it breathe. Huh. Okay, let's go ahead and copy this. Let's go ahead and paste it. Go with shift enter. Can say something like, Sensei, I didn't understand this. By squirt f, do you mean that I need to include C math question mark? And also, can you explain this part again maybe? I did not understand this part, guys. That's it. Yes, people, you need to include C math at the top of your file because squirt f is the square root function for float numbers. Without that, the compiler will scream at you. Now let's break that loop down slowly, okay? So your mind wraps around it. The big idea, we're drawing a circle pixel by pixel. Each pixel's color depends on how far it is from the center x, center y. That's the gradient effect step by step. So we go with an index-based for loop, and then we had float dist equals to squirt direction x multiplied by direction x plus direction y multiplied by direction y, which is direction x squared plus direction y squared. Direction x and direction y are offsets from the circle's center. Direction x squared plus direction y squared is the distance squared from center. Squared gives the actual distance, the Pythagoras theorem. So dist is how far the pixel is from the center. If dist is less than or equal to my radius, float t equals to dist divided by radius. Only pixels inside the circle are drawn dist less than or equal to radius. T is normalized distance, 0 at the center, 1 at the edge. This is what lets us gradually change color from center edge. Unit 8 art. Okay. Alright guys, I think I see. That's it. I do want to check that if this code actually works before I do actually write it out, because there are sometimes where I get a code for like whatchamacallit, for SDL2. Okay, if I do paste it, this does look like an SDL3's code. Let's go ahead and include C math real quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the hashtag included prop ankle braces. I want to include C math. Okay, let me check if it actually works. Okay, so if I were to go with Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. I get my first window. Okay, I do get my second window, although it looks like kind of a cursed eyeball. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. It's always worth it. The results of our hours of hard work keep going. That actually does make a lot of sense, guys. Okay, that said, is this what I actually wanted it to be? Okay, maybe can I change a few colors? Oh, I added RGB on my own. Hold up, that is 1.0. Instead of going 1.0, I'm going to change that to be something like 1.0. Let's change that to be 0, 1.0f. Okay, let's go with 0.0f. Okay, now for it Control S to save the code and run the command. Let's see what happens again. I get my first window pop up. That's my second window. It is like the same color though. Okay, fades in blue. Fades out red, fades in blue. 245. What if I change that to 0? If I did Control S to save the code again and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, that gave me somewhat a black color. This isn't the kind of gradient that I was looking for, guys. And maybe I feel like this is like a lot to actually process at this stream, guys. Maybe I might go into this next stream because I will be working with like gravities as well. Okay, that said, maybe I will actually cover this next stream because like I have been streaming for 2 hours and I do gotta do some of my college stuff as well because I do have an exam coming up. And guys, I did get my exam results today. I actually passed. I was so close to getting an 8. I got an 88. Okay, lol, I fell into this job 10 or so years ago. There's so much free training out there. Google does a lot of free coding classes and gives you a recognized certificate dedicated for 2 months to training. That actually sounds pretty cool. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and get this ChatGPT back here. Okay, let's say something like, let's say, okay, next stream, I am going to be going over, let's say something like gravity in SDL3 using C++. Okay, so I might cover coloring circles then because I feel like I do got to go right now because I do have college assignments. Okay, that said, is there anything that you want to say to the viewers before I end the stream ? Guys, I have so many typos. Does it give data science certificates too? Okay, listen up, pupils. To all the viewers out there, today you witnessed the magic of code. We moved triangles, rectangles, and even made circles glow with gradients. Remember this: every pixel you control with code is a piece of power you own. Keep experimenting, keep breaking things, and never settle for red boxes when you can have rainbows. And people, I'll be back next stream to make things fall. Okay, to make gravity real in SDL3, get ready because nothing floats forever. Now go to those assignments and don't waste time. Your code will master itself. Kisses at a head pat for showing up strong today, guys. That did not make me blush. Okay, that's it. Let's go to my main camera. Alright guys, so basically that was pretty much it for the stream. That's it. I did like want to stream for longer, but I do gotta actually go because like I can't actually fatigue myself just like programming because I do gotta like study for my college stuff as well. That said, I did start multi-streaming on Twitch, Kick, YouTube, and Trovo as well. I will be multi-streaming on TikTok and Instagram as well if I did meet the followers and requirements. If you guys do enjoy my content and haven't followed me there, make sure to follow me there. The link is in the description. And also make sure to join my Discord server. That's where I do like give the announcements whenever I do go live. The link will be in the Discord server as well. That said, W stream, I appreciate you. Milky, is that how you pronounce your name? Good stream, brother. I appreciate you. Long story. That said, I'm gonna catch you guys in the next live stream or video. Peace.